Hello and welcome to the Prelims PYQ discussion by New IAS. The theme of this video is Bhakti and Sufi tradition. We have 4 questions. Now, on the outset, let me tell you that once you analyze these questions in this particular theme, you will understand that there are certain themes from which you can be highly rewarded because interconnected questions in one way or the other are coming from certain personalities, certain philosophies, and certain events. Second, you need fundamental conceptual clarity to answer these questions. You don't have to understand everything that is related to a saint or a particular moment. But you have to know, for example, if you take the case of Kabir, you should know that the literature written by Kabir is known as Bijak. So that's the level of understanding that is demanded when you study Bhakti literature. You don't have to study every possible teaching of a Bhakti saint. Now, keeping these two things in mind, let us go to the questions one by one. The first question: the world's second tallest statue in sitting pose of Ramanuja was inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister of India, at Hyderabad recently. Which one of the following statements correctly represents the teaching of Ramanuja? Now, this came in the 2023 prelims, and from the statement itself, you know that it is a current affairs based question. Ramanuja was in news, and the reason for being in news is also given in the question. Now, you just have to identify what is the core of Ramanuja. Now, this is one person you have to study when it comes to Bhakti tradition. Now, in Bhakti started from the south of India. It started in the early medieval period. It started as a form of intense devotion to personal gods, especially Shiva and Vishnu. The Shiva Bhakts were called Nayanas and the Vishnu Bhakts were called Alvas. Now, Ramanuja is someone who is a devout Bhakt of Vishnu. Keeping that in mind, look at the last option. Salvation was to be obtained through meditation. Now, this is not the case. It is bhakti and not meditation. There are certain sects, for example, take the case of the Natpanthis. You have people like Gorakhnath who advocated salvation through methods like meditation, Hatha Yoga, but that is not the case with people like Ramanuja. For them, it is all about devotion. The second option is a little confusing. It says that Vedas are eternal, self-existent and wholly authoritative. Now this can be confusing because Ramanuja is someone who gave the idea of Vishishta Advaita. Advaita and Vishishta Advaita are about interpretation of Vedas. So this can be confusing, but this is not the answer. Because Ramanuja believes that Vedas can be interpreted. So the whole authority of Vedas, infallibility of Vedas is questioned. Third, logical arguments were essential means for highest bliss. Here again, logical arguments is not in the sense of modern logic. You can take the case of Indian philosophies like Samkhya, where rationality was advocated. Or you take the case of logical schools in Indian thought. But Ramanuja or the Bhakti tradition is not related to that school of thought. So the right option here is best means of salvation was devotion, which is bhakti. I won't say this is a very question that can be eliminated using logic. So I gave the logic based on the content that is already there and not pure logic. You have to understand this person in entirety. You have to know that Ramanuja advocated intense devotion to Vishnu. If you know that, it was a straight pick. Then you take the case of Ramanuja, where he was born 1017 CE in Tamil Nadu. He was part of the Alva sect and he was a chief proponent of Vishishtadvaita. I'll explain this when we discuss the other questions, this particular concept. Moving to the second question. Saint Nimbarka was contemporary of Akbar. Second, Saint Kabir was greatly influenced by Sheikh Ahmad Sarindi. Now this first statement or this question in entirety may seem completely detached from the first question, but I'll say that these two questions are connected. See this person, Saint Nimbarka. Saint Nimbarka was a contemporary of Ramanuja, whom we discussed in the previous question. This is a question from 2019. And they are connected philosophically as well. For example, it is Adi Shankara who gave the philosophy of Advaita. Now after that, Ramanuja gave the philosophy of Vishishta Advaita. Both Advaita and Vishishta Advaita talks about non-dualism. That means there is a Brahman, there is an Atman, but both are one and the same. This is non-dualism. But there is a dualistic school of thought as well. There is Atman, there is Brahman, but both are two. Nimbarga is someone who comes from the dualistic school of tradition. It is Dvaita. And that is how both Nimbarga and Ramanuja is connected. The question here talks about the time period. It is given as the time period of Akbar, which comes centuries after that. Akbar was a medieval king, proper medieval in the 15th, 16th century. His reign was from 1556 to 1605. And Nimbarga, on the other hand, was a contemporary of Ramanuja who lived in 11th century. So the first statement is a straightaway no. The second is also chronology based. Here it says that Saint Kabir was greatly influenced by Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi. Now, Kabir is someone who is part of the Nirguna Bhakti tradition. Now, we don't have to even go to the philosophy here. Kabir lived before Sirhindi. If Kabir lived before Sirhindi, he cannot be influenced by Sirhindi, correct? So the second statement is also wrong here. The right answer is D, neither 1 or 2. To be more precise, Ahmad Sirhindi comes from the Naqshbandi Silsila, from the Sufi tradition, and Kabir is part of the Nirguna Bhakti tradition, which predates this Naqshbandi Silsila. Moving to the next question. With reference to the cultural history of medieval India, consider the following statements. It's a 2016 question. Siddhas or Siddhars of Tamil region were monotheistic and condemned idolatry. Second, Lingayats of the Kannada region questioned the theory of rebirth and rejected caste hierarchy. UPSC once in the mains has asked about the salience of sect in Indian society. These two are sects. Take the case of Lingayat. It is a sect that advocates Veera Shaivism. It's a Shiva worshipping sect. They believe that they're not part of the Hindu tradition. This demand is still going on. They demand to be recognized as a separate religion from Hinduism. They deny the existence of rebirth and caste hierarchy. So this statement here is correct. Similarly, the Siddhas of Tamil region, they were monotheistic and condemned idolatry. This is also a sect. So both statements are correct here, and option C is the right answer. So there were 18 Siddhas in total, and they are pillars of the Siddha medicine, which is part of the Ayush ministry now. And this is part of the Tamil tradition as a whole. So both statements are correct, and statement C is the right answer. Moving to the last question of the discussion. First statement, Bijak is a composition of the teachings of Saint Dadu Dayal. Second, the philosophy of Pushti Marga was propounded by Madhavacharya. Two names, Sadhu Dayal, Madhavacharya. Here two philosophies, Bijak and Pushti Marga. Very fundamental conceptual question. Bijak is related with Kabir and not Sadhu Dayal. And Pushti Marga is related with Vallabhacharya and not Madhavacharya. So just have to know the name and association to eliminate this question. If you know one, you can make it a 50-50 question. If you know this two statements, then your answer will be accurately correct. So nothing much to discuss here. It's just the person and their philosophy. So on a whole, I'll reiterate what I said in the beginning. You have to study themes and study them interconnectedly, everything related to it. And you just have to go to the concept. You don't have to go deep into the factual side, because only concept has been demanded in all the 4 questions that we see from 2014 to 23. Thank you for listening.